wondering what I'm doing there, I'm signing a waiver. We're with the Jere Melo Foundation, and today we're going to go out to a marijuana grow for a cleanup.
The impetus for what we're doing here today is a group of sportsmen who are supporting the efforts to reclaim and improve conditions in the forest with what's going on. You guys all know what's going on. We have these large trespass grows that destroy wildlife and hinder public safety and a number of other things.
This garden was eradicated in October of last year.
August 28th.
August 28th? Yeah, okay. Thank you. August 28th of last year. There was over 8,700 plants that were eradicated, along with, it was the second cut, so essentially they had already begun harvesting at this point. It's very sizable. The infrastructure is still there, it's all complete. There's a processing center, a drying center, a couple camps, several trash dumps, probably a couple miles of drip tape as well.
It was funded by a grant that was given to the Mendocino County Black-tailed Deer Association, and that's where this money and the ability to come do these projects came from. Lear Acid is just basically carrying out the workload for the Black-tailed Deer Association because Lear Acid has the resources and the assets to be able to do the work.
And bears come along and they bite it. You'll see bear bites into these bottles and stuff. That's the concern that we have, along with Paul, is the fact that it's not just the human aspect of it, it's the animals in the woods. It's not their fault. We've been into the eradication with law enforcement right now for 1 week, and we're up to over 25,000 already as of today. So the trend has come back up. We have not even got started in the season yet. We own 240,000 acres on the coast. We're going to see most of the plants in Mendocino County because of the amount of property that Mendocino Redwood Company owns.
All right, we're standing outside now. This is the Mendocino Redwood Company located off Gibney Lane. This is where we're staging the event from. And we're going to caravan down. There are other members of the media to the grow site, which is down near Elk, California. It's on the south coast. And the land, of course, is owned by Mendocino Redwood Company. They're the ones that end up finding a lot of these illegal trespass grows. They're the ones that are left with the task of having to clean it up. We're going to get ready to get in the car now and head down to the grow site that actually was raided by law enforcement a year ago. And after a full year of sitting there, the infrastructure that supported this grow site is still sitting there. All right, we're out here in the LZ, which is called the landing zone. You can see the helicopter back behind me here. We're actually not in the immediate vicinity of the actual grow itself. So what we're going to do from here, this is kind of like a staging area. Some folks are going to get into the helicopter there and they're going to fly in. Others are going to take a vehicle and drive in, but we're still a little ways off from the actual garden itself. Now, for many, many years, the environmentalists and the folks that did logging around here were adversaries. They didn't get along. And this is actually one organization, it sounds like to me, from what you just said, that brought these two groups together.
Yeah, that was my vision, was to get everybody involved. We were so often polarized that it's time that we finally have common ground. Nobody likes to see, you know, like one of the gentlemen said earlier, when this rat poison goes out into acres and acres of habitat, the rats become sick with anticoagulants, and then they get lethargic and they move slowly, and they're as more susceptible to getting preyed upon by birds of prey. So when that happens, typically you have large amounts of rodents being eaten by raptors, you know, which are the local, you know, native hawks and eagles. And so that happens a lot. So what you get is a dead zone where everything that anticoagulant touches affects successively down the line in the animal species.
All right, thanks, Paul. And you've been on many of these grow sites as part of a cleanup crew. As you mentioned, there's a danger element involved, and not just from maybe some live ammunition, but the toxics that you mentioned that are left behind. And so, as we get ready to go here, what do you tell your crew? Or I mean, these guys and gals are all obviously trained, but do you ever have any kind of a game plan as you go into these things, or are they all different?
No, they're the same. I think it's just you're going to deal with standard over-the-counter pesticides like Sevin and Ortho and these different types of over-the-counter pesticides. Those are pretty straightforward with the what we call the dermal, getting dermally exposed or inhaling different powders and stuff. But when we go out, we're trained to know exactly what's the safer stuff, and then we're trained to know exactly what the other stuff is. The problem with the U.S. banned stuff, it's a neurotoxin. There's carbamates and there's organophosphates, and both of those are highly dangerous and they're very toxic. When we come into contact with a campsite or whatever, we are trained to look to see what we have, and typically these things are mixed in bottles like Gatorade. They'll come in one particular canister that might be original, but they get broken up and split up into these sites, and they'll be in little clandestine little areas where they'll be stuck in a stump or hidden in a brush pile. Once we identify those, there's some factors that we look at. One, are they a mixing bowl? Are they a mixing canister? And then we assess from there. And if they are the carbamates or the organophosphates, we have equipment and state training to handle those and to contain those and remove them, pretty much. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, I know we're probably getting ready to go now, so on behalf of the Jere Melo Foundation and the general public, we sure appreciate you folks getting out there and doing what you do, because as we just mentioned, as you just pointed out, there's a danger element involved to this as well. So we appreciate it on behalf of the Jere Melo Foundation and the public.
Thank
we
you.
really do. Oftentimes when these large illegal marijuana grows take place, people are actually out there camped, living for months at a time while they guard the garden, sometimes with AK-47s and night vision goggles, so could be a dangerous situation out there, you never know. This marijuana garden has been vacated for quite a while, but when they finally harvest their marijuana crop, they just leave, and they leave everything behind. And you obviously, if you've been camping out in the middle of nowhere for a couple of months, there's a lot of human trash, human waste, and things like that that are left behind.
So they'll dig out a big hole and it just fills in naturally from a spring or whatever. And so they'll siphon it for their water trucks so they can water the roads. Some of them will steal from those. They'll stick a suction in there.
This is a pretty sophisticated water trap.
But this is normal. I mean, this is really absolutely normal. Human trafficked here. And they don't even know they're here. I mean, they pulled some guy out and he said, well, take me back to, Mexico. And he's like, you're in California. He's like, no, not in Texas. And they're like, no, you're in California. But then on the other hand, they're blindfolded, dropped in here and told if you don't do this, you're going to get your family killed.
That's visqueen or plastic, and that's mainly for storing water.
So they try to catch more of it?
Oh, they'll do this all the way down the mountainside, because if you have 8,000 plants, you need a lot of water.
Have you guys had to deal with anybody?
Yeah. Yep, several times. Yep. Fortunately, it hasn't ended up in a gunfight, but we've had many times where we had standoffs.
Is there a standard caliber?
45 and 40 is kind of what we use.
So when you're in a standoff?
We communicate to them, if they're on private property, we announce that we're security, and if they don't speak English, that can get dicey at times. A lot of times I was telling Glenda that if we come into a site, if we patrol in like this, we're usually quiet, trying to gather an idea of what we're dealing with. If we stumble on somebody, they don't know who we are sometimes because we're in camo, but we always wear patches and badges and stuff so that we're identified. And so we come in and we'll communicate to them. Some of our guys are Spanish speaking. So we'll tell them, let me see your hands typically or something like that. So we're safe, they're safe, everybody's communicating. So most of the time they'll run. But a lot of times we get people that are like you and me. They're out there on a trespass grow and they understand exactly who we are. So sneaking in.
Do you ever make the arrests? Or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Last year we arrested 2 individuals in Mendocino County for trespass at first, identified ourselves, and then they had weapons. One of them had the weapon out, the other one had the weapon holstered because he didn't know we were waiting. So they walked into us, we announced ourselves as security, and they didn't comply immediately. Well, later on, it was apparent that they were on methamphetamine because they had about 30 grams or less of methamphetamine. So
you had the authority to make those
arrests? Under the powers of arrest in the state of California as a security contractor, we have the same power that citizens have. It's PC 837. So you have to announce your intent to arrest. You have to announce the crime. If it's witnessed in your presence, felonies and misdemeanors are arrestable. So we're not allowed to detain. So we either communicate and allow them to move on and tell them to move off the property. If they resist, then it goes to the arrest level. It never goes to a detention.
So now, were the people here arrested?
No. No. When the helicopter comes in, that's their cue.
Mm-hmm. So
the gig is up.
Did they get any of their harvest out of here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know exactly how much, but it's evident because when you look on the site, you can see piles and piles of trimmed, stems. That's indicative of maybe the year before they got away with it. They've been getting away with this for several years. So anytime you find those processing centers and material like that, it usually means that they've gotten away with some of it. Yeah. Maybe a large part of it, actually.